since most of you did watch the lectures, I think what we'll do is we'll back up just a little bit from what you saw on the lectures, and we'll pick up with Act 3. Okay. A little bit of breathe. Do not get this virus if you can, because it just does not let go. A little bit of brief review, let's say. A Midsummer Night Dream is set in 2 locations. One is Athens, and the second is the wood outside Athens. Act 1 is in Athens. Okay. Acts 2 through 4, almost all of Act 4 is set in the wood. Not all of it, however. I think it's Act 4. Act 4, Scene 1, okay? And then Act 4, Scene 2 to the end, so I think there's only 2 scenes in Act 4. And then you pick up with Act 5, yeah. is set back in Athens. So the majority of the play is set in the wood, okay? Why is that significant? What does Athens represent?
Society,
civilization. Society, civilization. What else? What supposedly, I come to doubt everything these days. What are society and civilization based upon?
Values.
Keep going.
Rules.
Rules, order. Okay? Rules, order, law. Okay? What about the wood? What does it represent?
Mystery.
Mystery. The exact opposite of all of these. Anarchy, chaos, misrule. Right? You don't go off to the woods, you don't go off to a jungle, for example, and expect, lions, tigers, bears, oh my, to obey the laws. Because what laws do they obey? The laws of nature. Natural laws, which are a law of sorts, okay? Lions are going to be lions. Tigers are going to be tigers. If they're hungry and you're weak, you're a goner, kind of a thing, okay? So, chaos, misrule, anarchy. Who holds power in Athens? Who's the ruler? Duke Theseus, okay? Who holds power in the wood? Yeah, the fairies do. Okay, so you have a duke in charge of Athens. Who's in charge of the fairies? Oberon, the king, and his queen, Titania. Okay, so what have we seen happen in Acts 1 and 2? What's the initial conflict? What starts off the tension in the play?
An arranged wedding.
Pretty quick. An arranged wedding of sorts. Because if you remember how the play opens, it opens with Theseus and Hippolyta talking about their upcoming wedding. That wedding's going to occur in 4 days. Okay? And then that kind of gets interrupted. It's not literally interrupted by a member of the aristocracy, a man named Aegeus. He comes in with his daughter in tow and a couple of other people. Okay? And he explains to Duke Theseus, here's my daughter, step forth Hermia, and he says, I want her to marry this man. Demetrius. All right? But she doesn't want to marry Demetrius. She wants to marry another man named Lysander. So you have Hermia in love with Lysander, Demetrius in love with Hermia, Helena in love with Demetrius. Okay? And we get the short background. These two want to marry. Aegeus wants him to marry her. She doesn't want anything to do with him. She's in love with him. And we find out the reason she's in love with him is because he wooed her, he courted her before he fell in love with Hermia. And then he ditched her. Okay? So that's kind of the background. And the conflict that is entered or that is created is not just, we're in 2020. If a father doesn't want his daughter to marry somebody, how much power does he have to stop that wedding? In the United States. Zip. For the most part. Okay? Unless you're in some parts, of the deep south and she's 16 or something like that. But for the most part, none. In this society, what is women's role? What is women's place in ancient Greece? Because that's what this is. This is, and I don't mean ancient Greece like we're going to be reading about ancient Greece when we get to Sophocles. That's, Sophocles is writing in the 400s BC. This is set in like 1,000, 1,500 BC. Okay? Theseus is a real mythological character. Shakespeare doesn't create him. All right? So, what role do women have? How much standing do they have in society? None. None. They are property. Like, this is my property. I could be Aegeus, and this is my daughter. I can do with her as I please. And his pleasure is to do what? Here, Demetrius, you have her. Okay? But she doesn't want to. And notice what Theseus does, by the way. He kind of gives her an opportunity to voice herself. He says, well, Hermia, what do you think about this? She says, I want to marry him. Okay? So the real conflict is, what does Aegeus demand? Anybody remember?
I think 3 options.
Theseus gives 3 options. Aegeus demands one of 2 things. Either she marries Demetrius or the Athenian law, which is she dies. She either does what I want her to or I'm going to kill her. Pretty extreme, right? So Theseus says, when Hermia asks, tell me, Lord, what's the worst I can expect? He doesn't say that. He says, well, that is an option. But he says, so marry Demetrius, die, or I'll give you a 3rd option. Or you forever, his words, abjure the society of men. Meaning, you become a nun. Not a nun to Christ, a nun to Diana, the goddess of virginity and chastity. She's the goddess of the moon, okay? Which, notice, the moon is cold. It's not very bright compared to the sun. The sun is full of passion and heat. The sun is the image of love. The moon is the image of sterility. Okay? So, you will forever swear away men, okay? And you will live the rest of your life singing, he says, faint hymns to chastity. Yay, chastity, virginity, woo, for the rest of your life. So he says, kind of take stock of yourself. Can you do that? Can you swear off sex forever? Okay? And it's not like she's had it. She's a virgin at this point. Okay? So, that's the central conflict. Pretty big conflict, right? Die or remain a virgin the rest of your life. Okay? So everybody leaves except for she and Lysander. And Lysander says, I've got an end. who lives in the wood outside Athens. And she loves me. I'm her favorite. We can go there and we can marry there. Where? Why is it important that it's in the wood and outside Athens?
Outside of the law.
It's outside the law. The law can't touch us. We can go there, marry, live out our lives happily ever after, and Theseus and your father can't touch us. Now what that also means, however?
They can never go back.
They can never go back to Athens. Because once they step foot inside Athenian society, within the Athenian borders, boom, the full weight of law comes down on them. And then it wouldn't be only Hermia's death, it would also be Lysander's death. Okay? So, they agree to do that. They're going to meet the next night. They're going to run off. So the next night will then only be 3 days to the upcoming wedding of Theseus and Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, and 3 days until she has to give her decision to the Duke and her father. Okay? So what does Hermia then do? Before they leave the scene, who does she tell? She tells Helena. This is what I and Lysander are going to do. Why does she tell her? Is it because women can't keep a secret? Yeah, that's probably in Shakespeare's mind a little bit. Just shut your yap. Don't tell anybody, right? There wouldn't be any other main conflict in the play. It would be a 1-act play and not a 5-act play. But she tells Hermia, what does Hermia? She tells Helena, what does Helena do? She tells Demetrius. Why? Because she thinks Demetrius will follow them out into the forest. And what is she going to do? She's going to follow Demetrius. Does she think she's going to persuade Demetrius to marry her? Nope. We're never told that. All we're told is that she thinks, and I can be around Demetrius. How bad does she have it for Demetrius? She just wants to see him. If that's all she can do. Like a teenager, riding by somebody's house just on the off chance, he or she will show their face in the window. Shakespeare does that a lot. Romeo and Juliet, Romeo's just kind of waltzing by. Oh, look, there's, okay. So, scene 2, we then get introduced to what are called the rude mechanicals, the clowns as they're also called. They're not clowns. What kind of people are Peter Quince and Nick Bottom the Weaver and Francis Flute?
Actors.
Later, they become actors. What's their day job? They all work with their hands. They're skilled tradesmen or craftsmen, if you want. Okay? So we get introduced to them because they decide they're going to put on a play for the Duke's wedding. Remember early on, the Duke told a character named Philostrate, go rouse up the Athenian youth, have them get ready to put on some revels for our wedding night. Cool. So we're going to have these guys do this. Describe them intellectually. They're like 25-watt bulbs in a society of 150-watt bulbs. They're not the brightest people in the world. Okay? And we see that because of what we see their characters do and say in that Act 1, Scene 2. Okay? Then we go to Act 2. And we get introduced to whom? The fairies. Okay? We meet Puck. We meet Oberon and Titania. We see Oberon and Titania meet. And how do you describe their marriage?
Not strained.
Louder?
It's not going.
Not going very well. Strained. Why? What's the bone of their contention? Why are they arguing? Anybody remember? Is it sex? Is it money? No. It's because she has a little what's called a changeling boy in her retinue that Oberon wants to be one of his henchmen. A changeling boy is a human child, right? This boy was born to a woman who, Titania says, was a votress of her order. That is, someone who believed in the fairies and kind of worshipped the queen of the fairies. This child was that woman's child. The woman has apparently died. And what Titania did was she went, or she sent other fairies to, and stole the child from the crib to be raised among the fairies. This isn't an idea Shakespeare creates. It's an idea that goes way back in human history. It's not only in English culture, it's in Indian culture. You know, India, not Native American India, okay? And the idea is, if you have a child who is unruly, misbehaved, doesn't do what he or she is told, maybe he's not really yours. Maybe that child is a fairy child who was switched at birth with your own. In other words, it's a way of saying adopted, not my blood. Okay? Because the changeling works both ways. The changeling can be a fairy child raised by humans or a human child raised by fairies. Okay? So, Oberon wants that child. Titania says, not for your fairy kingdom. I won't give this child up for anything. He says, fine, have it your way. She waltzes off, and we get another, not quite conflict, but complication. What does Oberon tell us he's going to do to his wife? Anybody remember? He tells Puck, and Puck is one of Shakespeare's great kind of trickster characters. If you get an opportunity to play Puck, that means the director is really putting a lot of trust in you. Because Puck is one of the great roles. Because he's funny for one reason. Okay? He tells Puck, remember that flower that I told you about once? That if you pluck the flower and you sprinkle it in somebody's eyes, the juice of that flower, the next thing that person sees when he or she wakes up, he or she will fall madly in love with. Go pick me that flower. Puck says, okay. And Oberon says, I'm going to put the juice of that flower in Titania's eyes so that when she wakes up, she will see something hideous and fall madly in love with it. Okay? So Puck gets the flower. Oberon tells Puck what to do. Put the juice in her eyes so that when she wakes up, she'll fall in love with the first thing she sees, whether it, he says, is a bear or bull or leopard or mountain cat. In other words, a beast. Okay? And we're going to see what she sees when she wakes up. So what else does he do? Is he only interested in getting revenge on his wife? Nope. Because what else has he seen? He sees these two. And he sees Helena fawning over Demetrius. Now, describe Helena. Because we're going to see in Act 3, we saw it towards the end of Act 2. We saw an argument, okay, between Helena, Hermia, Lysander, or we're going to see that actually in 3, and who am I missing? Demetrius. And we're going to hear in Act 3 how Hermia is jealous of Helena. She's not jealous because Helena is in love with Demetrius. She's jealous of what about Helena? Why do some women, it can apply to men too, sometimes get jealous of other women? Or some men sometimes get jealous of other men. You know, I look at somebody like Chris Hemsworth, and I just think it's not fair. It's just not fair. Or any of the Hemsworths, except for the fourth brother who's ugly and fat and like an accountant. Or third brother, I can't remember. Okay? What does it mean? Or, you know, Tom Cruise. The guy doesn't look any older than he did when he was 27. Okay, he's maybe got like 2 more wrinkles on his face. He never ages, seemingly. Okay? Helena is a goddess. She is described as somewhat tall, willowy, probably blonde. Hermia, not. Not tall, not willowy, definitely not blonde. At the very least, she needs to have dark hair. She is probably of a dark complexion. I don't mean dark California girl tan. I mean dark-skinned. Okay? Because we're going to hear descriptions of Helena. And Hermia's going to go, oh, that's it, is it? Okay, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. So, Oberon sees her following him and him kind of dogging her. And he goes, not right. Not right. When they leave this wood, it's going to be him who's going to be following her. So, we're going to take some of that juice, Puck, and when you find an Athenian swain man, put it on his eyes. Okay? So what does Puck see? Puck sees an Athenian man, he sees an Athenian woman, they go to sleep, and he puts it on that Athenian man's eyes. Only problem is, it's the wrong man. And Lysander's going to wake up, and the first person he's going to see is going to be Helena. So now, he's going to be in love with Helena. Demetrius is also going to be in love with Helena. Okay? So, we're going to pick up with Act 3. The wood. Okay? We have the rude mechanicals enter. Bottom, Peter Quince, Snout, Starveling, Snug the Joiner, etc. And they're going to put on a rehearsal for their play. Okay. Puck is there. Notice, still on the stage, kind of, are asleep the 4 lovers, kind of. Okay. So, we're not going to talk about this actual scene much, other than to say, what does Puck do? Well, there's a scene in the play that they're putting on, what's called the play within the play, where Bottom has to go off stage. So Bottom goes off stage, and Puck does what to him? Transforms him. He puts the head of an ass on his head. And usually, the way that's done in a play version is a guy comes out with like a paper mache ass's head on him. Now, sometimes what some directors do is they also put hooves on his hands and they give him a tail. That's not what Shakespeare means, though. It's not what Shakespeare wants us to see, because that means kind of a total transformation into a jackass. Shakespeare wants us to see Bottom as mostly human, partially jackass. And it's the head that's the jackass. Why? Because Bottom is a jackass. He's an idiot. I mean, he's literally close to a moron level. Okay? So he comes back on the stage with the ass's head on, and the other rude mechanicals, the other skilled tradesmen, see this and they flee. Why? Well, imagine your best friend coming into your room, your apartment, with an ass's head on. That's not a piece of paper mache, but is real. You would probably run too. Okay? So they all flee, and Bottom stands there, and he's like, I see what you guys are doing. I understand that you're trying to make an ass out of me. He doesn't realize that he has an ass's head on. Okay? So, he starts to sing. Why? He's trying to calm himself. And when he sings, he doesn't sing beautifully. He doesn't have an amazing drop-dead gorgeous voice. Oh, so cock, so black of hue with orange tonic bill. That's what he sounds like. Who, meanwhile, is asleep on the stage? Titania, queen of the fairies. Now, I said Helena is like a goddess. Like a. Titania is a goddess. She's literally a goddess. Okay? Queen of the fairies. So, if she's gorgeous, what's Titania to Helena? Gorgeousness on steroids, man. Just raise it to the next level. Okay? And she wakes up and says, "What angel wakes me from my flowery bed?" Now, if one accepts the existence of angels, and if one accepts that angels can sing, what kind of a voice do you think an angel would sound like? Enrapturing. It would, if you heard it, it would almost kill you from its sheer beauty. Not Bottom. When she hears Bottom, and she thinks it sounds like an angel. And Bottom keeps singing. And she says, "I pray thee, gentle mortal." Now she's not only fully awake, she's looking at Bottom, and she's speaking to him. "Sing again. Mine ear is much enamored of thy note. So is mine eye enthralled to thy shape." What does enthralled mean? In love. Literally, it means enslaved to. To be enthralled is to be in slavery to. And we have poets who use that language of enthrall, to be enthralled, enthrallment, okay, to describe what happens to the person who falls in love. Notice even that language, falls in. What does the falling in mean? It means you no longer have any control. You are totally in the power of the other person. "And thy fair virtue's force perforce doth move me on the first view to say, I love thee." Okay? Bottom, again, doesn't understand what's happened. He doesn't understand. He's not gone, huh? Donkey ears, donkey snout. He hasn't seen himself. So he responds to her words, which don't make any sense to him. How? "Methinks, mistress, you should have little reason for that." Okay? What's he introducing? She says, "I love you." You have little reason for that. How many of you have been or are in love? You don't have to raise your hands. I think every person in here probably secretly goes, yes. Okay? So, when you were in love, how did you become in love? Did you sit down with a legal pad and go, I'm going to love you, and here's why. Then you go, I love you because height, weight, body shape. And you just start listing all the things that you love. What kind of moron would do that? That's doing what? It's reducing love to reason. No. When you quote unquote fall in love, what happens? Can you ever literally answer the question? I'll give you the hint. No, so don't. Why do you love me? There's not a right answer to that. There are an infinity of wrong answers. A wrong answer is, it's your eyes, it's your body, It's your personality. Because what can happen to all of those? Change. Change definitely will happen to the body. It might happen to the eyes. You might go blind. You might get cataracts. Eyes fog over. Personality can change. Okay? So, she falls madly in love, and he says, well, there's no reason for that. That's true. There is no reason for why you fall in. It just happens, right? And yet, to say the truth, that is a statement of reason. Reason and love keep little company together nowadays. The most important word in that line, nowadays. Because what is he implying?
Things have changed.
How so? Previously, in the past, reason and love did keep company. That is, love made sense. Not love was rational, but love made sense. How many times have you known of a couple that you look at him and go, that just doesn't make sense. What does she see in him? Or what does he see in her? I mean, goddess, slob. Or God, whatever, She doesn't wash. She doesn't, whatever the problem is. We've all known / seen couples like that, where reason says, reason, okay? He's not saying reason and love didn't keep company in the past. He's saying reason and love. Love made sense in the past, okay? But he says now they don't. The more the pity that some honest neighbors will not make them friends. Honest neighbors, he's talking about reason and love, will not make friends. He's talking about like neighbors, and you have a fence dividing the properties, right? They're neighbors. They live close by. They're not friends. That implies what? It's not that they're neutral. It's that there's antagonism between them. His point is, reason and love should work how? Hand in glove. They should be friends. Why? Because here's reason and here's love. They inhabit the same body. They ought to work together. And he's saying, nowadays, they seem totally at odds. They didn't used to. Okay? She says, thou art as wise as thou art beautiful. How beautiful is he? Human jackass. He's not very beautiful. So, are we meant to take what Titania means there as to mean, because this is the way probably 98% of Shakespeare critics take it, is to mean she's totally wrong. He's not wise. Why? Because reason says what about Bottom's appearance? He's ugly, right? Is she looking through the eyes of reason? No. What do we say about love?
Irrational.
Blind, because Cupid was blind. What else? It's in the eye of the beholder. It's in the eye of the beholder. What does that mean? It means love transforms what it sees. Pause for a moment. passage we didn't talk about. I talked about it, I think, on the video lecture, one of them. And go to Helena's closing speech in Act 1, Scene 1. Page 1553 in my edition. These are lines 225 and following. Act 1, Scene 1, lines 225 and following. Okay? This is after Hermia tells Helena what she and Lysander are going to do. And so, Helena gets what's called the soliloquy. Soliloquy. Which is where an actor is alone on the stage, and the actor speaks to the audience, and in a soliloquy, the actor tells us what he or she, the character, actually literally believes to be true. In other words, we are merely getting a glimpse into the person's thoughts. Because people don't lie to themselves up here. Even if you're a murderer and you kill somebody and you plan out the murder and you plan out how you're going to hide yourself from everybody else, up here, you know you're the murderer. Okay? So, Helen is alone on the stage and she says these lines. How happy some or other some can be. Okay? And you've got a gloss down there. Can be in comparison to some others. How happy some can be in comparison to others. She's talking about how happy Hermia and Lysander are compared to others. Me. Through Athens, I am thought as fair as she, but what of that? And that's probably understatement. I mean, most people in Athens think I'm as fair as Hermia. She probably means that as understatement. That is, most people look at me and they go, I'm prettier than she is. Demetrius thinks not so. He will not know what all but he do know. Demetrius, she says, doesn't think I'm as fair as Hermia. He will not know, and the will not could mean volitionally. He desires not to know what everybody else but he do know. That is, it's like he's willfully blind. He chooses not to see me. Notice the relation right there with what Titania was just talking about. His reason tells him I'm not as fair as Hermia. And as he errs. So what is she saying right there about Demetrius and how he sees? He's not seeing right. He's not seeing correctly. Because everybody else says what? I am as fair as Hermia. The fact that he doesn't see that doesn't mean everybody else is wrong. Classroom of 20, if 19 of you believe you see something, and one person goes, oh, I didn't see that. And there were to be a trial, what's the jury going to assume? The one person's wrong. You don't tend to get 19 people having the same mass hallucination. So, and as he errs, doting on Hermia's eyes, so I, admiring of his qualities. That is, he errs, why? Because he looks only at Hermia's eyes. He doesn't look at the full package, so to speak. And she says, and I do the same thing. I err, how? Because I admire of his qualities. Look, admiring of, wondering at. That admiring, the word admiration, it means to be wowed, to be astonished. to be just totally kind of taken out of yourself. I don't know if you've ever seen, just an amazing sunset. Or if you were, around and saw one of the two tornadoes that hit Murfreesboro. Growing up in California, we didn't have tornadoes in California. Earthquakes, dime a dozen, big deal. The ground shakes. Woo! Always wanted to see a tornado. Until the Good Friday tornado of 2009. Because I saw it about 200 yards away, making a beeline straight for me. I thought, okay, chalk that off my bucket list. Don't ever need to see that again. Okay? So I admiring of his qualities. And then she kind of goes off into this philosophical statement. Things base and vile. Now what does base and vile mean? Low. Not just common. Low. Dirty, if you want. Okay? Things base and vile, holding no quantity, that is, unsubstantial, unshapely, not having a good form. Love can transpose to form and dignity. Love, looking at something base and vile, can do what? Can transform, can change the shape of that to having a beautiful form and dignity, value. So what can love do? It can turn, jump to Act 3, an ass's head and a screeching voice into beauty and charm. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind. What? If it looks with the mind, isn't the mind rational? Isn't the mind reasonable? Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind. And therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. Okay? Looks with the mind. How? We'll get to that in a moment. Why is Cupid painted blind? We hear the phrase, love is blind. How so? Well, in the myth, when Cupid walks around with his little bow and arrow, or, think Valentine's Day, and the little cherubs, fat little babies with their bows and arrows, what do they do? What does Cupid literally do? Does Cupid go, I'm going to make you two fall in love, so I'm going to shoot you with an arrow and you with an arrow and make sure the first thing you see is, nope. Cupid's like Stevie Wonder. Pew, pew. And what happens? Sucks to be you when you're hit with Cupid's arrow. There's all kinds of classical and medieval literature where you have a hero, a character who says, I'm a warrior, I'm a soldier. I don't have time for love and namby-pamby sissy stuff. No, I'm not going to follow women. They waste your time. You can be damn sure every time in a work of literature where some guy says that, Stevie Wonder comes in with his arrow and that person gets hit. Not because Cupid goes, want to bet? Boom! But because it's what happens. So, nor hath love the mind of any judgment taste. Nor has love, which dwells in the fancy or imagination, any taste or least bit of judgment or reason, your gloss tells you. Okay? In other words, love doesn't pull out the legal pad, pros and cons. Wings and no eyes figure unheedy haste, and therefore is love said to be a child, because in choice he is so oft beguiled. What does that mean? What's to be beguiled? To be tricked. In choice, love is often tricked, which is why we kind of sometimes look at a couple and go, how in the world did those... look at the quote-unquote president at first look. What? How in the world did Melania whatever her last name was. I can't remember because it's Slovakian. It's this real long thing. End up with Donald Trump. Okay, yeah, I admit, when they got married, he didn't look like he does now. And he was a playboy, millionaire, billionaire, philanthropist, all that kind of stuff. But you kind of go, something's wrong with this picture. That's Helena's point. As waggish boys and games themselves forswear, so the boy love is perjured everywhere. For ere, that is before, Demetrius looked on Hermia's eyne, it's the plural of eyes, he hailed down oaths that he was only mine. Before he had fell in love with Hermia, he was in love with me. And when this hail some feet from Hermia felt, he dissolved in showers of oaths did melt. So she says, I'm going to go tell him. Why? Herein mean I to enrich my pain. She's going to make her pain even more. To have his sight thither and back again. She's going to go to try to do what? To get him to see her again. How will that enrich her pain? It doesn't only mean increase it, as I just suggested. It means what? To be repaid for it. It will make her pain all worthwhile. Ultimately, she means to ease, to wipe it away. She's going to try to find some way to get like Demetrius, to see her, what? As he was wont to see. The same thing Oberon says when he puts the love juice on Demetrius's eyes. See as thou wast wont to see. See, because he's saying, Helena, as you used to see her. Okay? Now go back to where we were. Thou art as wise as thou art beautiful. In her eyes, in her mind, bewitched with the love juice, page 1571, what has she done to Bottom? See, in her eyes, and in her mind, because of the bewitching, love and reason, they do go together. Why? Because what does love do? It makes beautiful whatever it looks at. Okay? So, Bottom says, if I had the brains to get out of this wood, I'd be gone. She goes, no. You're not leaving. In other words, you're mine now. I own you. Enthralled? She's enthralled to his vision. He is now physically enthralled to her. See, in medieval literature that deals with fairies and elves, as they're also called, the reason fairies and elves enthrall humans, 99% of the time, it's for sex. The humans become the fairy/elves sex slaves. And then they die, so they go get more. That's the case all the time. All right? So, we see how she treats Bottom and such. Scene 2. Oberon comes in, okay, with Puck. So, Titania and her fairies leave. Oberon and Puck comes in. Oberon asks of Puck, he wants to know, so, what happened? Did you find Titania? Did you put the juice in her eyes? Okay. I wonder if Titania be awake. Then what it was that next came in her eye, which she must dote on in extremity. That is, to extreme degree. Now, when my wife and I first went to London together, I'd been to London once or twice before doing some research. Or I'd been to England. I was doing library research, and so she came with me for a couple of weeks. And we went and saw Midsummer Night's Dream. This was 2002. Okay? And for that production, we bought the groundling tickets. Remember, no, you didn't, because I didn't do it in this class. The globe looks like this. You've got the stage here. Big column, big column. This is an overhang, like ceiling. And you've got all the way around, seating here, 3 levels, okay, of essentially wooden benches. And then this is the yard or pit, okay? And the people who stand here are called groundlings. Shakespeare's day, they paid a penny to get in there. Today, if you go to Shakespeare's Globe and you buy a groundling ticket, you have to stand the whole production. If you sit down, one of the docents will come and make you stand up. If it starts to rain and you open an umbrella, they'll make you close it. Okay? No umbrellas, no hats, etc. Anyways, so we got there, and I knew we needed to get there early in order to get a good standing spot, by which I mean right there. The stage is about 42 inches high or so. My wife's 5'1.5" on a good day, so 5'1" usually. All right? So we get there early enough and we get dead center. So she's standing like this. And we see this production, I'm pretty sure, might be this one of my textbooks, it's got a picture from that production, okay? And they did what is often done with A Midsummer Night's Dream. You have a reduced acting company because you have the same people playing the roles of the fairies who play the roles of the humans, okay? And the guy who was playing the role of Theseus also played the role of Oberon. And he's a Scottish actor. Just looked like, almost like Gerard Butler, when Gerard Butler was young and really, really handsome. And he had this thick Scottish brogue. Little tidbit about my wife, she loves Scots. And she loves the Scottish accent. So we're down there, and he comes out, his name's Paul Higgins, and he comes out, and he drops down on his knees, and looks and his head's like this far away from my wife, looks her dead in the eyes, and asks, I wonder if Titania be awake. And she says, yes. And I'm like, Karen, shut the hell up. Because as soon as she says that, 3,000 pair of eyes, boom! I mean, just silence. She says yes, and he goes, no! And the audience just erupts. And they ad-lib. She's talking to him for about 3 minutes. He doesn't say, then what was it the next came? He goes, no. She goes, yeah, sure, yes. And then he asks, and she goes, you'll never guess. No! And they do it again, okay? And then he goes back to the play. That's one of the values of seeing a play like that at the Globe, because the actors will bring in the audience members. Okay? And they do it wonderfully. So, Puck comes in, and Puck tells them what has happened. Over on line 35. This falls out better than I could devise. This is even better than I planned. I wanted her to fall in love with like a bear. I don't know about you, but a bear would be pretty easy. I mean, a big, cuddly bear. I mean, how cool would... No, this is even better because it's not quite beast. It's not quite human. But notice, is that all Oberon's concerned with? What about the Athenian? His eyes? Did you take care of him? Notice what also Oberon is concerned with. He wants to fix this. Okay? He sees Helena and he's like, that's not right. That's not right. So did you take, he says, yeah, and enter Demetrius and Helena. And Oberon says, well, here he is, right here. And Puck says, that's the woman, but that's not the man. See, he put the love juice on Lysander's eyes when Lysander was asleep next to Hermia. Well, Lysander got up and left. Hermia was left alone. Okay? Demetrius says, oh, why rebuke you him that loves you so? Because Demetrius woke up. He sees Hermia. Sees Hermia. He's already in love with Hermia. Okay? And she says, no, I tried, etc., etc. Okay? So, Puck and Oberon kind of, they're still on the stage. They're in the background. And usually in productions, as this scene goes on, because Helena's going to come in with Lysander, and we're going to see the quote-unquote love fight between all kind of four. And Oberon's going to stand in the background, and he's just going to get this scowl on his face. Because as this goes on, he gets angrier and angrier and angrier. Meanwhile, Puck just kind of gambles and dances about because he gets happier and happier and happier. Okay? So, Demetrius falls down asleep, Hermia leaves, etc. And Oberon turns to Puck and says, what hast thou done? Thou hast mistaken, line 88 or so, thou hast mistaken quite and laid the love juice on some true love sight. Of thy misprision must perforce ensue some true love turned. Notice, Oberon is concerned that some true love might be stopped. Not good. Not good. Puck. Well, then, fate overrules. That is, wasn't me that did it. Fate made me do it. And that one man holding troth, that is holding truth, being faithful, being loyal, a million fail, confounding oath on oath. Now, what has Puck just said about human love relationships? 1 in a million are true. 1 in a million. That is, for every one where the man is true, is faithful, man, there could be generic, could be where the relationship is faithful, 1 million are false. Yes, I love you. And I love you. And I love you. Oberon, go. Find Helena of Athens. Okay? Bring her here. And I'll charm her eyes against his eyes against she do appear. Bring her here. We're going to make her fall asleep. And I'm going to do what? I'm going to put the love potion on Demetrius. Notice, I'm going to do it. You're going to screw up again. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to make sure he falls in love with her. Okay? So he puts the love juice in Demetrius' eyes. Puck comes back in and says, here's Helena. Okay? Stand aside. The noise they make will cause Demetrius to awake. So Puck stands aside and says, then will two at once woo one. That must needs be sport. Ooh, that'll be good. And those things do best please me that befall preposterously. So Lysander and Helena come in. And Lysander says, why should you think that I should woo and scorn? Right? Because Lysander had the juice put on his eyes by Puck. So now Lysander loves Helena, but he should love Hermia, because that's who he loved before. And now Demetrius is going to wake up, and he's going to see Helena. So now they're both going to love Helena, whereas they both before loved Hermia. Hermia is going to come in. They're going to go, what the hell? You both loved me before, and now nobody loves me. What goes? Okay? So, what does Helena think of all this? Is she suddenly happy? Demetrius is now hers. Oh, but now she has to fight off, Lysander too. Again, this is, Shakespeare writing, 1595. There's no menage a trois, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? What does Helena think is going on? Thinks is going on? She's the butt of their joke. They're all playing the practical joke on her. And she kind of looks at Hermia and is like, why? We used to be friends. What goes? Line 192. She is one of this confederacy. She's in on it, Helena says. Now I perceive they have conjoined all three to fashion this false port. Okay, so she gives a big long speech to Helena and to Hermia, and Hermia says, "What? Why are you scorning me? What do you mean? Have you not set Lysander as in scorn to follow me in praise?" She's like, "What? No, I don't understand what you mean." Okay, so they argue back and forth, and Demetrius and Lysander are telling Hermia to leave Helena alone. And we hear Lysander say, line 257, 258, in response to Hermia's, Lysander, whereto tends all this? That is, why are you saying all this? Why are you saying this about me, that you no longer love me? Okay? Listen to his response. Away, you Ethiop. You got a gloss. Referring to Hermia's relatively dark hair and complexion. Probably dark skin. Okay? Now, a couple things to bear in mind. You read this in the introduction. Who played all the roles in Shakespeare's day on stage? Men. Men and boys. So, where you have a female character, depending upon her age, it might be a boy, meaning someone between the age of 10 to 14, 15, or a man, 15, 16, early 20s for the women. Unless it's an old woman, then you can have an older actor play her, usually. Okay? What else? What if you have a character like this who's supposed to be dark skinned? Then they would darken the skin. Okay? So, away you Ethiop. This is Lysander, who in the beginning of the play was willing to do what? Fight Demetrius for Hermia. Demetrius said, no, he'll seem to break loose. Take on. Lysander says to Hermia, hang off, thou cat, thou burr. Vile thing, let loose, or I will shake thee from me like a serpent. Because what's she doing? She's kind of grabbing onto him, trying to pull him away from Helena. Okay? Why are you grown so rude? What changes this, sweet love? Thy love? Out, tawny Tartar. Okay? Tartar is like Mongolian. Again, darker skin. Okay? Outloathed medicine, O hated potion. Hence, medicine means like when you take something to make you purge. Like if you take poison, what do you do to get rid of the poison? Swallow a bunch of mustard, or for some people, mayonnaise, because what's it make you do? Blech. He's just called her something that makes me vomit. She says, do not jest. Yeah, yes, I am, yes, truth. And so do you. They keep going back and forth. Okay? And Helena then calls, Hermia says to Helena, 284 or so, you juggler, you canker blossom. A canker blossom. That is something that attacks a plant to kill the blossom. You thief of love, have you come by night and stolen my love's heart from him? Helena, what? Fine. Have you no faith, have you no modesty, no maiden shame, no touch of bashfulness? What, will you tear impatient answers from my gentle tongue? Fie, you counterfeit, you puppet. Counterfeit. She means like you mannequin, you doll, you puppet. We got a gloss down at the bottom. Counterfeit, dwarfish woman, in reference to Hermia's smaller stature. Now look at Hermia's response. Oh, that way goes the game. Now I perceive she hath made compare between our statures. She hath urged her height, with her personage, her tall personage. Her height, forsooth, she hath prevailed with him. And are you grown so high in his esteem because I am so dwarfish and so low? How low am I, thou painted maypole? May Day, people do the strings and they dance around. She's saying, the men are dancing around you. She says, how low am I? I'm not so low that I can yet scratch your eyes out. Okay. She takes Helena's comment about puppet to mean what? You dwarf, you midget. She's short. Helena's probably 5'9", 5'10". Hermia is probably good casting, has her about 5 feet tall. And she's like, I'm so tired of being called short, because Randy Newman, short people got no reason to live, and etc. So she flails at Helena. In good productions, flail means you're doing this. Good productions, she jumps. Like, okay? And the men stop her. And she, Helena, uses terms that can be construed to refer to Hermia's shortness. She doesn't intend them that way. Because she is something lower than myself that I can match her. She doesn't mean, I don't think, I could be wrong. She doesn't mean because she's shorter. She means she's acting baser than myself. She's acting beneath her regular behavior. And Hermia just wants to claw her eyes out. Okay? So they fight back and forth. And Demetrius and Lysander are trying to hold Hermia off. Okay? And we hear one of them say, Helena says, line 326, most Shakespeare productions, if they're doing a Midsummer Night's Dream and they're hawking t-shirts, they'll put this on a shirt because it's a famous quote. Though she be but little, she is fierce. Both my wife and my eldest daughter have those shirts because they're both smaller. My middle daughter is like 5'5", she lords her height over my eldest daughter. Okay? So, Oberon and Puck come forward after they all leave. And Oberon says, this is thy negligence. All of this is because of what you've done. Still thou mistakest. Still there, the word still means always, continuously, you screw up. Or else commits thy knaveries willfully. So he's giving Puck an out. Either you just can't help it and you always screw up, or you do it on purpose. Puck, believe me, King of Shadows, I mistook. You said, man in Athenian garments. Lysander has Athenian garments. How am I? And so far blameless proves my enterprise that I have anointed an Athenian's eyes. And so far am I glad it did so did sort, as this their jangling I esteem a sport. This makes me laugh. This is funny. Is it funny to Lysander and Demetrius and Hermia and Helena? No. In fact, how unfunny is it? That is, what are Lysander and Demetrius prepared to do when they go off the stage? They both love the same woman. What often happens?
Fight over it.
They're going to fight over her. Fight till what? To the death. In other words, the play at this point, rather than being a comedy, right, can become a tragedy. This is the typical structure for a tragedy. The comedy works this way. I mean, you've got the rising action, the climax, the denouement, the unraveling. Okay? With a comedy, you have falling action. This is the falling action on this side. The falling action, the climax. This point and this point are all important because here, what happens at the climax is you have what happens at the beginning, a rupture in society, okay? Falls. And at this point, what could happen in a Midsummer Night's Dream? Murder could occur, right? One of them kills the other for the hand of Helena. Okay? If that happened here, it becomes a tragedy. Why? You kill someone, you can't have a restoration of society. Because the person who's died, it's not a Warner Brothers cartoon. They stay dead. They're going to stay dead. Here, however, we don't have the murder. What do we begin to see? We begin to see the knitting together, the resolution of the rupture in society. The rupture starts to get fixed. How so? What do Puck and Oberon do? They take the magic juice off of Lysander's eyes so that he will, as Oberon says, see as thou wast wont to see. See as you saw in the past, which means be back in love with Hermia. And then we see what? Do they take the juice off Demetrius's eyes? No. Why not? Same thing applies. See as thou wast wont to see. Want when? Before he became aware of Hermia. See Helena as you used to see her. Used to when? When he made sweet love to Nadar's daughter. When he gave her tokens, he gave her letters, he gave her cards, he took her out for dinner, he bought her sweet, the whole 9 yards. Okay? That's the big, we see that turn here. If we didn't, if one killed the other, it then becomes the tragedy of A Midsummer Night's Dream. So, he says, Oberon says, make his eyeballs, line 370, roll with wonted sight. When they next wake, all this derision. Derision here has two meanings. It means false sight. It also means false reason. False reason. It's not rational for Demetrius to love Hermia. Oberon is saying. It is rational for him to love Helena. It's rational for Helena to love Demetrius. Why? Because when he wooed her, he stole her heart. She gave it to him. And now that's going to be returned. So he says, in all this derision, that is, all this stuff that they've seen, shall do what? Shall seem a dream, and there's our title, in fruitless vision. Why is a dream a fruitless vision? How many of you have awakened from a dream, awakened from sleep, had a dream, and had that dream continue in reality throughout the day? Where you wake up from the dream, and oh man, what a great dream. And then it actually happens. The vast majority of people, no, it's just the opposite. You're like, no, because I'm awake and life sucks, And back to Athens shall the lovers wend. Wend means go, but it's not a straight path. It's wandering. With league whose date till death shall never end. What's he implying there? They're going to go back to Athens and do what? They're going to get married. And when will that end? Their marriage. Till death do us part. They're going to stay married forever. Why? What's Athens? It's the place of law, rule, civilization. Shakespeare's kind of implying there, if we don't hold to that and have marriages that hold to that, society breaks down. That's the definition of breakdown. Okay? So, Puck says, I'll do it. Okay? So, Puck gets the four lovers to come back onto the stage. He tricks them. They all fall asleep. And they fall asleep so that Demetrius is next to Helena. And over here, far enough away where he won't wake up, facing somebody else, Lysander is next to Hermia. And we get Act 4. The lovers are all still asleep on the stage. And we have Titania come in with her fairies following. And Oberon comes in. Okay? And Titania falls asleep. And Oberon comes in and sprinkles the juice on her eyes so that she sees as she is wont to see. So that when she wakes up, she will be back in love with him. Why? Because while she was in love with Bottom, he got her to agree to give him the changeling child. So, sprinkles the juice. She wakes up upon his saying, line 70, now my Titania, wake you, my sweet queen. My Oberon. My. What's the my there? Does it mean possessive? Like people say, my husband, my wife means I own you. I can do with you what I... No. It means connected, connection. What visions have I? What a dream! Wow! It was so vivid. Me thought I was enamored of an ass. And he says, look, when she says my Oberon, I think when she wakes up, she sees Oberon's face. He is looking right over her. And he says, turn. Look, right there. How came these... What? Oh, how mine eyes do loathe his visage now. Why? She's looking with the eyes of the mind. Go back to what Helena said in that soliloquy. Okay? And the mind says, yeah. She says, how did this happen? Silent. Shh, doesn't matter. You think he's going to tell her? While, the reason you fell out, it's because I put a love juice in your eyes and made you so that I could get my... No, I don't think he's going to tell her. Okay? So, Oberon says what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. Theseus and Hippolyta are getting married soon. We're going to go back to Athens and we're going to bless their wedding. We, the king and queen of the fairies, are going to bless the duke and queen of Athens. And what else? Not only their marriage will be blessed, we're going to bless all these other marriages too. Okay? So, Theseus and all his train come into the forest. A couple minutes left. And what do they see? It's almost like they trip over them. And Jesus is like, this is my daughter. With my sin. I know what they did. They came off to the wood. They had sex. He deprived me. I'm going to kill him. And they're like, wait, there's Demetrius and Helena. And they wake up and they kind of tell them what happened. And what does Theseus say? We'll hear more of this later. In the meantime, you guys are going to come back to Athens and no, Aegeus, you're not going to get your will on this. They're going to marry. Hermia will marry Lysander. Demetrius will marry Helena. In fact, they're not only going to marry, they're going to marry when? On our wedding day. It's not going to be one wedding, it's going to be 3 weddings. Okay? So, he leaves with Hippolyta, and the 4 lovers are left there. They're like, did we hear that right? We're going to get married? Part of the same wedding ceremony? My father was here, Hermia says. They're like, something weird. And then Bottom wakes up. And Bottom's like, wow, what a dream. What an amazing dream. I'm going to have to write about this dream. And we'll put it in the play. Okay? So, we will pick up, what's today? Tuesday. On Thursday with Act 5. Okay? Expect a quiz. And that quiz will be over Acts 1 through 4. So major characters, major plot stuff. Okay? It'll be at the end of class. Okay, so I need a sticky note.